Hi book fanatics, welcome to Books and Biographies 101. My name is Shrekman, aka the Bookworm. And if you're new to this channel, subscribe to this channel. And I mean it, subscribe to this channel because in this channel, I'll give you real food for thoughts. And don't forget to hit that post notification bell so that you get informed whenever I post and possibly be the first person to see my videos whenever I post. Anyway, let's get back to the video. Today we'll be reviewing a book called Hearing Grasshoppers Jump. This book, Hearing Grasshoppers Jump, which is basically a biography of a man named Raymond Ackerman and how Pick and Pay was born and nurtured to be the Pick and Pay that we shop in our groceries today. It was so mind-blowing reading this book because all along I thought Pick and Pay was some sort of a franchise that came from America because Americans are known for massive success. But to my surprise, Pick and Pay was born and nurtured in South Africa, my own native country, South Africa. And for the most part of it, it was by a man named Dr. Raymond Ackerman. If I don't call this man a living icon, then I'll be undermining him, because he revolutionized the retail industry of South Africa. He contributed to the major success of Checkers and Pick and Pay, and furthermore, he contributed to the freedom that we see today as South Africans. So this man qualifies to be called a living icon, unless there are some other strict requirements that makes a person to qualify to be called a living icon. So to cut the long story short, let me just tell you about the life of Dr. Raymond Ackerman and how Pick and Pay was born and nurtured. So Raymond is a blood of hustlers. That's all I can say. Because starting from his grandfather, he was an ostrich feather merchant at those days. And his grandmother, she was a retailer owning a small grocery shop. And his father, he was also a merchant, a retailer who owned a large clothing and jewelry company known as Ackermans in partnership with the two other friends. And from here you can already assume that it was an easy path for Raymond. And I was also gonna assume the same if his father did not decide to sell Ackermans, which was undergoing some sort of financial constraints, to a large competitive company known as GRASSHOPPERS, which was owned and led by a founder, Harry Heber, during the time when Raymond was about 15 years of age. Fortunately, his father was allowed to retain the control of Ackermans, but which now was a department under the control of GRASSHOPPERS company. So later, when Raymond completed his degree in commerce at the University of Cape Town, he was recruited under the department of Ackermans by his father. So his father served as a mentor for him in the retail industry, starting him from the very bottom by offering him a duty to greet customers and offer them chairs, which taught Raymond courtesy of caring for customers. And he kept on improving him or grooming him with other duties as time goes on. So later, Raymond received an offer to join the GRASSHOPPERS, of which he did with the support of his father. And he was lucky to be part of the new adventure of GRASSHOPPERS, which was starting supermarkets for selling food, of which he was recruited as part of the assistant management. So the experiment or the adventure was not a success even after Raymond took over as the manager, after the foreign English manager got sick and went back home. So Raymond figured that the problem might be with prices, even though at that time he didn't have the powers to implement price cutting. He later saw an advert from Triple M, which is Modern Merchandising Methods conference, which was to be held in the United States of America. So he persuaded Norman Heber, the son of Harry Heber, who took over as the chairman after his father's death. He persuaded Norman Heber to allow him to go to the United States so he can learn about retailing and also visit some of the supermarkets at the United States to learn and adopt their skills on how they operate, of which he did. He was so pleased to meet a man by the name of Bernardo Trillo, who became his mentor and taught him a lot of things, including the philosophy of four legs of the table, with the customer or the consumer on top of the table, of which I'll explain later. So Raymond and his wife toured around South America for 6 months after the Triple M conference. They were learning and experimenting and also adopting skills on how Americans operate their supermarkets. And at about that time, they were sending reports back to the Greatermans. But unfortunately, Greaterman's leadership did not get pleased with the reports, and they decided to kick Raymond out of the Checkers department back to the jewelry store, where it came to his surprise when he came back from America. So he had to plead and negotiate for years in order to be brought back to Checkers so that he can experiment what he learned from America. So eventually, after the years of nagging and pleading, they allowed him to experiment with one of the least productive stores of the 4 Checkers stores so that he can at least implement what he learned and to see if really there was a success or not. His first move was to reduce prices. And when he was prevented to reduce prices of some of the branded products, he told his staff to remove the labels of or the packages of the branded products and replace them with the handwritten labels, which was the beginning of the retail phenomenon known as the no-name product that we see in Pick and Pay. It's funny how we used to refer to no-name products as fake products. Now the secret is revealed. You can feel free to buy them. Otherwise, what was more amazing was that he almost sold all of the stock in the first day of promotion. So the store that was making roughly about 3,000 a month suddenly made about 9,000 in one day. That was amazing, right? Because customers loved lower prices. But instead of Greatermans appreciating what Raymond did, they decided to kick him back again to the jewelry store because they didn't like price cutting. Luckily, in 1960, the person who took over the management of Checkers failed horribly, and Raymond was recruited back into Checkers, now as the general manager of all 4 Checkers stores. And within 6 years, Checkers expanded into about 89 supermarkets under the leadership of Raymond, until 1966 when Raymond was unceremoniously fired from Greatermans. During the time of Raymond's success as the general manager of Checkers, his relationship with the chairman, Norman Haber, was very fluctuating with mixed up emotions. Sometimes Norman would be very proud of him and happy for his success and proud of his spirit of getting things done by himself. But sometimes he would be very furious and telling him that he was unmanageable, of which might be one of the reasons for his unprecedented removal from the Greatermans. It seems like the only barrier they had from kicking Raymond out of Greatermans was his father, because 2 weeks after his father's funeral, they did kick him out without any clear reason why. The day Raymond was kicked out of Greatermans was his worst day. He couldn't even foresee the opportunity to become even greater, because all he was thinking about was how he was going to break the news to his sick pregnant wife Wendy, and how he was going to support a family of about 4 kids in the near future. You can imagine the level of stress. But it came to his surprise when he finally revealed the incident of the day to his wife, who showed a completely different reaction from what he expected, because she surprisingly got up from the bed where she couldn't get up for several days as she was sick, and gave him a hug saying, "This is the best day of your life, Raymond, because you needed this push to do what you should have done years ago, to go out on your own and start your own business. And at that time, Raymond was having an inheritance of about 100,000 from his father, some few savings, and a 2 weeks paycheck from the Greater Mess. So he remembered the words of his mentor, Bernardo Trujillo, when he was encouraging him to start his business before the incident occurred. He said, starting or building your own business requires 90% guts and 10% capital. And a few months later, Raymond bought Pick n Pay, which was 4 small supermarkets by that time, with about 620,000 from the money he raised from loans and small investors who trusted in his reputation. Ironically, Raymond bought Pick n Pay from a man named Jack Golden, who came to Checkers 6 months back when Raymond was still a general manager of Checkers, asking for advices on how to run a supermarket and to also ask for a tour at Checkers to see how supermarkets operate, of which Raymond offered without any complaints, as Americans also gave him a chance to assess their supermarkets without any complaints. But at the later stage, Raymond, he didn't know that he was going to buy a business that operated mostly based on his philosophy. He practiced the wisdom he learned from his mentors, starting by his father, who taught him the courtesy or caring for people, and also from his university lecturer, Professor Hart, who taught him that when you run your own company, make sure that you care for people and the society, and you will succeed. And also that there is no separation between making profits and caring for people. Then his American retail mentor named Bernardo Trujillo, who taught him a lot about modern retailing, including the idea that rich people love lower prices, but poor people need them, which Raymond found to be more relevant in South Africa, more especially during the apartheid era. He also taught him the philosophy of 4 legs of the table, of which Raymond later used them to shape Pick n Pay to the Pick n Pay we see today. The first leg of the table is people. Make sure you express caring for people and the society. The second leg of the table is merchandise. Make sure your merchandise contains goods that are desirable, openly displayed, and readily accessible. The third leg of the table is promotion. People love promotions and lower prices. The fourth leg of the table is administration. Make sure that your staff is not lagging behind in doing their job. And finally, with the customer or the consumer on top of the table, because customer satisfaction is the ultimate goal, of which Raymond also referred to it as customer sovereignty or supreme power. So make sure by all means, always, that your 4 legs of the table are given equivalent attention so that you create balance and strong success. So this issue of customer sovereignty does not only occur in the retail industry. So for example, if you are a doctor, your customers are your patients. If you are a soccer player, your customers are your fans. If you are like me, a YouTuber, your customers are your subscribers. Make sure that you give them the ultimate satisfaction ever. So Raymond also learned from the story of a man he used to work for when he was at the tour in America. So this man named Mr. Shrekman, he was arrested for selling milk below the retail price. And when the community knew about the incident, they fought for his release and then later appointed him as the city mayor, which then proves the quality and the importance of customer sovereignty again. When you fight for your customers, customers will fight for you. When you treat your customers like kings and queens, customers will treat you like a king. And when Raymond started with Pick n Pay in 1967, he put the philosophy to use and started fighting for customers for lower prices. Just like Bernardo Trujillo said, rich people love lower prices and poor people need them. So Raymond figured that South Africans during the time of apartheid, more especially black South Africans, needed lower prices. So Raymond started by going after the retail price monitoring, which was used by suppliers to regulate or set prices for the retailers. So basically, if you were a retailer by that time, like for example, if a supplier of Coca-Cola said his can of Coca-Cola is to be sold for 10 rand, then it must be so. Or if you do it otherwise, then they'll cut your supply. So he started by going after cigarettes. So in that process, he bought large bulks of cigarettes that can fit in a warehouse that equates to a size of a 2-car garage. Then from then onwards, he cut the prices of cigarettes. So the suppliers, as expected, cut his supply. And then they were surprised when Pick n Pay continued to sell cigarettes and at lower prices. So from then onwards, Raymond went to the media and told everyone that the suppliers don't want him to sell to the customers at lower prices. And as expected, again, the consumers were on his side, and the suppliers decided to give up and allowed Pick n Pay to sell at whatever prices they wanted to sell at. Then after that, he went for bread prices. After that, he went for petrol prices. And after that, he almost destroyed all of the regulatories for prices of the goods and the products, which is the RPM, the regulatory price monitoring. But in some products, he did succeed, and in certain products, he did not succeed in doing that. During the time of Pick n Pay development, Raymond has seen the most. He received some acts of sabotages whereby his stores were flooded, his stores were burned. He received multiple death threats. His stores were looted day and night by mobs of black people who were striking during the apartheid era. He also experienced price war when his opponents, Checkers and OK Bazaars, decided to team up to crush Pick n Pay completely during the time when Pick n Pay was only operating in Western Cape. So what they did is that they reduced the prices very, very low in Western Cape so that Pick n Pay does not have customers and Pick n Pay dies at that point. But Raymond did survive all of those solely because he had the guts to survive. And that is what people going into a business must have. 90% guts and 10% capital. Then you are all set to be successful, just like Raymond Ackerman. Now as we're speaking, Pick n Pay is a multi-billion rand business with about 1,628 stores in overall, which includes 968 which are company-owned stores and 660 which are franchised stores. It has a number of 85,000 employees, of which is a success that anyone can wish for. So the overall philosophy of this biography is that in every endeavor you take, put customers or people yourself first. And in every endeavor you take, the road is going to be rough. That's one thing for sure. Make sure you have enough guts to pull through. If you like this story, hit the like button. Comment down below what's your favorite part. Share this story with your friends and family to bring some light into their lives. And if you're new to this channel, subscribe. And unfortunately guys, I don't have the link for the PDF version of this book, but you can get it from Takealot, Amazon, or any other online store. I truly recommend it. And other than that, I will see you in the next video coming next week. Peace out.